Hello. So a lot of people have been up and doing their top tens of the year, the 10 they least liked of the year for books and stuff. We are going to do our top tens of the year. But we may still finish some stuff because, we still have a few days. But we're going to, what I'll probably do is, do anything I'm going to add in a monthly wrap up I can add at the end of this month and then do some stuff next month too. But what we wanted to do though is do all the books we read in 2023, but clearly that's like 200 and something books. We're not going to go into too much detail. So what we're going to do is in one sentence we're going to review all however many books. So I read a lot more books than Sir Chunk, so it'll probably be like...
Great for you. This is going to be a long video. Let's speed it up.
Okay. So here we go. So that's...
I need to be able to see what the hell we're looking at, though.
Yeah. So I'm getting this all open so he can see. All right. So, all right, my first book of the year. And I have to be honest, I'm not 100% sure at the beginning of the year because I'm using my Goodreads tracker. And at the beginning of the year, I wasn't really using Goodreads and I wasn't doing I wasn't really tracking stuff.
Long video.
So some books I might have read in 2022, and there might be books I read this year that I didn't list as this year.
Like, wait a minute, that was from December of last year, you liar.
Okay.
That's probably not going to happen.
Anyway, fine. Okay. First book, All the Missing Girls by Megan Miranda. I read it twice, and it took me until 60% to realize I'd already read it before. So it's good, but obviously not very memorable.
Stephen King, Fairy Tale. A very cool dog, a kind of crappy fairy tale.
Lock Every Door by Riley Sager. Super spooky, gothic, kind of modern, fun. Love Riley Sager. Okay, my next one is The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. Not as good as the other Riley Sager books.
The Cabin at the End of the World by I forget who. Completely inapt garbage.
Okay, The Good Girl by Mary Kubica. I don't remember anything about this book. Mm-hmm. Final Girls by Riley Sager. I think this is his first, but it wasn't my first, and it's still one of my favorites.
The Silmarillion by the Tolkiens. It's got a lot of textbook elf stuff that's kind of interesting, but a little dense.
Fatal Intent by Tammy Giuliano, maybe? I've discovered I'm not interested in medical thrillers. Blood Sugar. A really fun mystery about unlikable people.
All the White Spaces by Allie Wilkes. Pretty cool, Antarctic horror story. Not quite as good as I'd hoped, but worth the read.
A Flicker in the Dark. I gave this 5 stars, but I don't really remember much, so I must have liked it at the time. Don't You Cry by Mary Kubica. I think this was all right.
Mayhem in Manhattan, the Amazing Spider-Man novelization. There's some mayhem. It's around New York.
Megan Golden's The Night Swim. Absolutely loved this. Dual timeline story about violence against women. Behind Her Eyes by Sarah Pinborough. This had one hell of a bonkers twist.
This is which one is this?
Doll's House.
Doll's House, which is the second Neil Gaiman Sandman graphic novel. I liked it, didn't love it. I think I'm sort of too late to the party on this story.
The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. Creepy, and also in a setting that I don't see a lot. Just Like Home by Sarah Gailey. A haunted house story that didn't remotely interest me.
Summer Morning, Summer Night by Bradbury. More beautifully written nostalgic summer tales.
It's Always the Husband by Michelle Campbell. Very well written, very fun, twisty mystery that surprises you. The Necklace by Matt Whitten. I think it was all right.
Stephen King, 11/22/63. Guy goes back in time to stop the JFK assassination. He could do it any time. Instead, he decides to dick around in town for 800 pages. Good start. The rest of it, not so much. 8
Perfect Murders. Great concept. Pretty solid execution. Might have liked to have seen all of the murders actually be played out. The Collective. Very dark revenge story about women who go after people who hurt their kids.
Ring Shout by a dude. We got some sort of dark revenge where the KKK gets murdered by a dude, so that's kind of uplifting.
Find Me. I think this was pretty decent. Don't really remember that much. The Lion Club. It was okay. You're going to see I started reading too many thrillers all at once.
Dead Silence by S.A. Barnes. Thought it was going to be horror in space. Instead, it's crappy romance in space. This might be the worst book I've read in my entire life.
Woman in the Library. Really, really solid. Slight weak ending, but for the most part, very, very solid read. The Dinner. I absolutely love this, and I know it's a translation, but I thought the characters were just awful and fun to read.
Black House by Stephen King and Peter Straub. Main character from Talisman comes back later as a detective, trying to solve a murder. Starts bad, ends bad, middle's great.
On a Quiet Street. This is a period where I read a lot of thrillers, and they were all fine, and I don't remember this one. So then we move into Just Like the Other Girls. Another not memorable but okay thriller.
Foreign Deceit by Jeff Carson. Pretty typical super tough guy, travels the world solving crimes while all the ladies want to have sex with him. It's kind of not that great.
The Couple at Number 9. Another not memorable thriller that I read in a period of time. The Perfect Girl. I remember this one. It was pretty good.
Bradbury, Death is a Lonely Business. He has a few of these noir stories, and like the setting is good and the writing is good, but he doesn't really nail this particular genre that great.
The Girls' Weekend. A more than solid thriller. Fairly solid. I enjoyed. Last House Guest. Absolutely loved this. My favorite Megan Miranda book, I think.
Billy Summers by Stephen King. A hitman with a heart of gold. I mean, kind of, I guess.
We Were Never Here. A fun, twisty thriller about people in your life that you're friends with, and then you wonder why. Never Coming Home. This was in the pile of not memorable thrillers, but they were fun to read.
As You Like It by Shakespeare. I read this years ago. I'm not sure why I just recently rated it in my Goodreads, but Shakespearean comedy, it's awesome.
The Swell. I thought it was kind of dumb. The Other Family. It was all right.
Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, right? This is a really short, really well written, very witty, fun fairy tale.
The Kind Worth Killing. Very solid read. I really like Peter Swanson.
I like his frozen dinners.
Wrong Place, Wrong Time. One of my favorites of the year. I just love the structure of it because it's twisty time travel. And it was just a nice addition to the sort of generally kind of fairly common thriller.
Later by Stephen King. If Sixth Sense was like really bad in a book.
The Change by Kirsten Miller. Another thriller, but with a feminist fantasy edge. Good as Gone. I keep having to read the summary of what this was about.
All the Light We Cannot See, Anthony Doerr. All the beauty and brutality one could wish for.
The Power. When women get all the power, it's cool. My Dark Vanessa. Probably one of the most disturbing things I've ever read. Don't go into this without lots and lots of trigger warnings.
My Best Friend's Exorcism. 80s exorcism horror-ish stuff, but it's not horror really, and it's not very comedic, and it's kind of disappointing.
In the Hall with the Knife, a clue mystery. Really, really badly written, but still, it was a clue mystery. The Last to Vanish, another Megan Miranda book. I liked it. It was okay.
I can't see what that book is.
It's Robinson Crusoe.
Oh, Robinson Crusoe. You know about him. He gets stuck on an island. He collects a bunch of stuff. He gets bored, so do you.
The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. Really cool dual timeline thriller. A little bit of a ghost story. Liked it. Old Man and the Sea. Reread this, and it's way better when you're old.
Wide Sargasso Sea. It's like a prequel to Jane Eyre. If you love Jane Eyre, I'd read it. If you don't, do not.
We Spread by Ian Reid. Ian Reid is the best writer. I love him. Please read everything he's written. Oh, it's me again.
Okay.
The Caretakers by Amanda Bestor Siegel. It was okay, but it was set in Paris, and that was cool.
Clown in a Cornfield. Clowns murder a bunch of people in a small town. Good premise, not the best execution.
Unraveling Oliver. You wouldn't think a story about a psychopath and his evolution into being a psychopath would be boring. The Burning Girls by C.J. Tudor. Really, really solid, nice kind of mystery thriller, ghosty type thing. Maybe took on a little bit too much, but overall really good.
Treasure Island, yar. Just be like the prototypical pirate adventure. It's a delight.
Foe by Ian Reid. It's Ian Reid, but this time it's sci-fi instead of horror, and it's still awesome. The Ghost Eaters by Clay McLeod Chapman. Basically of like Chuck Palahniuk or whatever, and I don't know, one of those guys wrote a ghost story, because it's a lot about drugs and 90s guys.
Pure Nisi by Susanna Clark. Lots of very elegant and beautiful descriptions of hallways and statues, and yet somehow it's great.
Harlan Ellison's I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream. A short story with an amazing title and a just weird-ass plot. The Island by Adrian McGinty. I thought this was going to be a thriller, and it was to survive on an island while people chase you. So it's kind of fun.
Ocean at the End of the Lane by Neil Gaiman. Pretty Neil Gaiman-y. Some young folks going to deal with some magic stuff. It's pretty good. I liked it.
Look Closer by David Ellis. Why is this book not more popular? It's absolutely amazing. Really well put together. Got to read this.
I read that too.
Yeah, you'll get to it.
What? Twice.
Devil House by John Darnielle. Like a 70s classic traditional horror, but not written in the 70s.
Last House on Needless Street. One of Coleridge Girl's favorite books. It relies really heavily on the same gimmick and gets irritating.
Just the Nicest Couple. I don't
Not my fault your book is bad.
It's amazing because you have no empathy. It's not my problem. Just the Nicest Couple. I don't know what this is about.
It's about a couple who's nice.
I don't remember reading it, but I did. I don't remember anything about Mary Kubica's books. That's what I've learned. The Lost Apothecary. Really, really fun dual timeline, like 1800s story about a apothecary and then a woman today, kind of feminist, fantasy-ish, good.
Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. It'll probably need 3,000 sentences to sum this up, but it's loaded with some really genius stuff and some really idiotic crap. What a mixture.
Metal and Bone. I absolutely love this. T. Kingfisher is one of my favorite writers now. The Murder Game by Carrie Doyle. This was dumb.
True Grit by Charles Portis. Classic Western tale, amazing characters, great story.
Hyde by Kirsten White. I really enjoyed this because I liked the social commentary side of it. A Little Life. This book will wreck you. Just be prepared to have your life ruined.
Dune McKee by Stephen King. He obviously is in Florida retiring soon, and that's just about a painter doing nothing, and then all of a sudden, ghost attack!
Looking Glass Sound by Catriona Ward. Really loved this. Very twisty. I feel like it's maybe not for everyone, but if you like writing and you like storytelling, it's probably a good read. The Gap. Way too much was going on. I don't even know. It was just too much happening.
Hey, it's the book Hide again. I read it too. A bunch of kids hide in a carnival,
Old amusement
park, and try not to get killed. I wish they'd get killed. I wish I could hide from this book.
Come Closer by Sarah Gran. Satanic possession and fun. Don't Forget the Girl. Really tried too hard.
Daisy Darker by Alice Feeney. About 10% of it is a really cool locked room mystery, and 90% of it's family whiny drama junk.
Oh, we'll be back to that. Doomsday Match by Jeff Wheeler. Fun action adventure running from death cult in Mexico. The Herd. Pretty fun thriller. I mean, more than solid. Pretty decent.
Lost Symbol by Dan Brown. It's like Angels and Demons, but in Washington, D.C., and not quite as good.
Old Boys by Nick Spalding. One of the funniest books I've read this year and in a while. A Good House for Children. Nice, creepy, traditional gothic mystery thriller. Loved it.
Bunnicula, the first one. A rabbit and a dog and a cat try to solve a mystery. It's pretty awesome.
At the End of Every Day, I am one of 3 people, literally if you go on Goodreads, I am one of 3 people who enjoyed this book. The Priory of the Orange Tree. I am one of 3 people who did not enjoy this book.
Holiday Inn, Bunnicula Book 2. This time they're at a pet center and there's some missing animals and they have to solve this mystery. The only problem with this one, there's virtually no Bunnicula in it.
Watership Down, the graphic novel. Really pretty. It's the story, but in graphic novel form if you want a nice shorter version. The Spite House. Cool, kind of modern gothic, southern gothic. A little bit of a letdown, but overall pretty solid.
Celery Stalks at Midnight, the third Bunnicula book. best title, but they add an extra character who kind of is annoying and drags the book down slightly.
Burn the Negative. Typical 90s, like, silly, cheesy horror. If you like things like Scream. The Militia House. Stunning gothic thriller set in Afghanistan.
She's putting me the mic. I read this book.
I'm gonna do a few for a bit. Okay, The Cage.
I'll be back here.
All right, The Cage was it was all right. It was an okay thriller. How Can I Help You? Not about librarians being cute and cozy. Not at all what I was expecting, and I enjoyed it a great deal. Ace of Spades. Good representation, but kind of bonkers, nonsensical plot. Hold on. Okay, we're back. The Hunt, a romance novel pretending to be about a bunch of people getting killed. So disappointing. Sinners of Starlight City, okay, but way too much mobster stuff for my taste. Woman in the Castello, okay, gothic mystery, but then it got into some really graphic sex scenes that completely ruined the book for me.
Joyland by Stephen King. Stephen King tries out noir, and it couldn't possibly be more predictable.
Agatha Christie mysteries with Miss Marple. Fun, a lot of good mysteries. Some I liked, some I disliked, some I loved, some I just didn't really like. Burlington, about a bunch of people I would never want to actually meet. Wild Spaces, the dog dies, so don't read it if you don't like that. Spear Cuts Through Water, saved my love of fantasy. I thought I liked fantasy, thought I didn't again, and then I read this, and I'm back to liking fantasy. Nothing But Black and Teeth. Amazing cover, really not a very good book. Delicate Condition, I apparently don't like American Horror Story in novel form either. I don't care about babies. Just Another Missing Person. I don't know if this is an American thing, but I thought the character got really, really hung up on like this horrible thing she did, that it didn't seem that horrible. One Night, it was just messy. Whalefall, about a character I absolutely despised. The only one left. It's stunning, one of the best books I read all year. Dark Corners, the next one in the Rachel Crowell series, and a completely different type of book from The Night Swim. So it's really fun to see where this kind of series could go, because there's a lot of, obviously, different directions. Whisper of the Woods was a comic book series, and I think it was weird. The last one is like that movie Escape Room, but on a boat. All right. Daisy Darker. I love this. This is one of the most recommended books. I recommend this to anyone, even if Sir Chunk didn't like it.
The Black Arrow by Stevenson. Sort of an old school Robin Hood-like adventure where people have weird names and get captured a lot.
Mr. Magic. It's a horror story about a kid's TV show that I cried hysterically throughout the entirety of the book. So it may be, I don't know. I don't know if you'll like it. These Silent Woods. This is like that movie Leave No Trace and the book based on it, but I didn't like it as much.
The Westing Game. It's like a famous mystery that I definitely should have read and probably would have liked when I was like 8, but now I don't like it because it's like too simple.
Under the Tamarind Tree, a book about a mystery sort of thriller set in partition, and it made me realize that American education, especially history, is pretty weak. Where the Body Was. It's an Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips comic series, so it's good. Parasocial, another comic series. I don't think I knew what the hell was going on. Prince of Thorns, a dark fantasy about a kind of unlikable character, but he's also kind of likable, even though he's unlikable. A Gronking to Remember. It's Gronk porn. What the hell do you think it is? That's what it is. Chad Goes Deep, the second Gronk porn. Still Gronk porn.
You can't go deep in the neutral zone.
Okay. I don't think anyone's reading this
Not
for
how
the football.
The neutral zone works.
The Golden Spoon, a story like a satire of the British Bake Off that someone tried to cram a mystery into unnecessarily. Should have just been about the Bake Off. What Moves the Dead, Fall of the House of Usher, retold by T. Kingfisher, and hilarious and creepy. Max Brand, Ambush at Torture Canyon. I don't like westerns in book form either. The Last Girl Standing, should have been amazing. Final Girls, camp thriller murder mystery, just not for me. Morning Glory. I thought I liked this when I was younger, and I didn't because it was a different book. Bad Moon Rising. Animals were being tortured, and I was out. This Is How You Lose the Time War. Absolutely loved this. Romance, sci-fi, time travel, just poetic, beautiful
So
thing.
you do love romance.
Apparently, if it's queer and it's sci-fi. And There He Kept Her is a race against time thriller. I loved it.
Drowned City. It's a graphic novel basically telling of the things that occurred during Hurricane Katrina. A very nice read for you're into that kind of thing.
Where the Dead Sleep, the second book in the series after In There He Kept Her. This is a more traditional mystery, not as good as In There He Kept Her, but a pretty good second book. In The Invisible Hour, what I've realized is I don't like when writers use real authors and celebrities in their stories. Also, I don't think this person has ever been to Massachusetts, even though she lives in Massachusetts, because I don't know what she's doing with her sense of history in Mass. She had Salem witches being burned. What? Come With Me, just bonkers and nonsensical. What Still Burns, romance disguised as a thriller. The Body Below, way too long for this type of book. It was a murder mystery. The Hike, I enjoyed it and I flew through it, but it's kind of like silly. Forget I Told You This. This is a super niche, sort of sci-fi, dystopian, poetic story that I think like maybe 7 people would want to read, and I am one of those 7. More for me, huh? All right, Suddenly a Murder. A murder mystery where I wish everyone had been killed because they're intolerable.
2 sentences.
Sorry. Jar of Hearts. It got me out of a reading slump, even though it's by a writer who I don't think actually knows what trauma's like. The Witching Tide, it was good, but I'm kind of over witch books. I have some questions for you. This is a dark academia, murder mystery sort of podcast thing. I absolutely loved it, but it's basically like parallels my own life. So hard to say if, it was personal. Glow in the Effin' Dark was a sort of memoir. And I liked it, and it was funny, but I also, sometimes you're like, oh, it must be easy to have mental health problems when you're rich. The Intern, super, super disappointing. It was a book by somebody whose books I'd really, really enjoyed earlier in the year. The Stranger Upstairs, beautiful cover, fun thriller with a kind of dumb conclusion.
Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clark. Jane Eyre writing style about 2 wizards chilling in the early 1800s. It's excellent.
Eliza Clark's Penance, true crime, sort of, about a bunch of teenage girls and how evil they can be. One of my favorite books of the year. Okay, next. Joe Nesbo's The Night House. Kind of weird, traditional, old-school horror. Kind of felt like a couple different stories in one. I don't know if something was lost in translation. It was solid. All the Things We Never Said. I couldn't get into this because the formatting of my arc was all messed up. That Night in the Woods is a horror novel about one really, really messed up cult. The Winterton Deception, Final Word. Fun, mystery, thriller, spelling bee, middle grade book. Brother and Sister Enter the Forest. Super, super visceral story about trauma that I found very impactful. People to Follow, a thriller that people are supposed to get murdered one by one, about horrible people you just wish would all just have fallen off the boat and there would be no book. Out There Screaming, a collection of short stories by black horror writers. So some were good, some were bad, but generally a great concept. Nice to see more variety and diversity in our horror.
Garfield's Pet Force, The Outrageous Origin. Garfield and his friends have superpowers and do some cross-dimensional travel.
Perfectly Nice Neighbors. A great thriller, but it kind of tried to do too many things at once. And I feel like maybe should have been maybe a series. Bradenmore is a comic series. Oh, you can actually talk about this. I thought it was just too short.
I haven't finished it yet.
Okay. West Hartkill. The ending pissed me off, so you can go look at my review on that. Monomyth, a really fun comic series. The Manor House, super creepy murder mystery thriller. This is one of my only non-5 stars that probably should be a 5 or is really close to a 5. Just Stay Away. I realize I do not care at all about people who have kids or their feelings about having children. Hide Me Away turned out to be part of a series, and I don't like books that I haven't read the series. Puzzle House, another kind of modern horror. just too gory, not my thing. I don't like body horror.
Guess a guy whines about how he can't get a girlfriend for like 85% of the book, and then they have to deal with some supernatural monsters.
Lighthouse Burning, just gore for gore's sake. Again, this is not the kind of horror I like. His and Hers, super twisty thriller. I love Alice Feeney. She's one of my favorites now.
Look Closer by David Ellis. Again, starts off a little slow, but gets pretty twisty throughout the second half.
The Mystery of Raspberry Hill. Really dark, ghost story, gothic, middle grade book. Absolutely loved this. Just blew me away. Afterlife of Holly Chase, one of my absolute favorite books of the year. Modern YA retelling of Christmas Carol. Uzumaki is manga. It's weird. It's creepy. I said it's like, I'm going to go into more detail in my summaries at some point anyway. But basically,
Just way too many sentences.
appreciate it in concept, but didn't really work story-wise. Forecast from Stonehenge, graphic novel based on the Choose Your Own Adventure series. Kind of cool to see these in graphic novel form. Eclipse by Wilder Poetry. Beautiful, stunning. Glad to read some more modern poetry. They Never Learn. Feminist serial killer. I mean, what's not to like? My Darkest Prayer, Southern Noir, which I've discovered is not a genre that's for me. Happy Place. I don't like romance. This is one of the best apparently, and I realized not for me. House with Good Bones. If there's such a thing as cozy horror, this is it. The Butcher of the Forest, really nice, like dark fairy tale. Sisterhood Everlasting wraps up the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants.
Suitcase of Seaweed. It's a poetry collection about someone's cultural sort of diversity.
Curse of Penrith Hall. Gothic horror that felt like it was trying too hard. The Signal Man, a ghost story by Charles Dickens. Pretty much your typical Victorian ghost story. Really solid. What did you think of that? You read that,
I did not read that, so...
Yes, you did.
Oh, I did read that. That's right. It was okay. I think it was one of those things that probably, like, really kicked people over back in the day, but now we've seen a lot of it.
Yeah, it's been done, but it's still good.
Right.
Welcome to Arkham, which is a visual guide for the Arkham Horror series, and I want to get a copy. The music was just getting good, a bit too long for a poetry collection. The City Where We Once Lived, dystopian, dark, twisty, enjoyed this a lot. Widow of Pale Harbor, gothic horror, but again, a modern writer trying to write it back in the day, and it felt a little too attempted. Stay Awake, I really liked this, but then I found myself getting irritated by it. The Dinner Party, yeah, these characters are awful human beings, and this just didn't work because they excuse bad behavior.
It's found on Winter's Night, A Traveler. Extremely experimental, very unique and different, but if you want to see a story get finished, avoid it.
The Bad Guys is a kid's graphic novel and absolutely hilarious. 1-star reviews. It was fine. It was what it is. What did you think of it?
There were some reviews that were 1 star. It was a little short, but pretty funny.
Yeah. And then just more you.
Just After Sunset by Stephen King. This is actually a very good collection. There was only one I didn't like and a bunch that were very excellent. Red,
White, and Royal Blue. Everyone was talking about how great the representation is, but all it represented was people I want to hit in the face. Heartstopper 1. Absolutely love this. Super cute. Super, like, it's queer romance graphic novel. I, devoured these in one morning.
Nothing Lasts Forever by Roderick Thorpe. This is the book Die Hard's based off of. So it's kind of like Die Hard, but not as good.
Heartstopper 2. Devoured this series in a morning. Heartstopper 3. Continued to devour.
Doctor Sleep by Stephen King. This is like reading an old school Stephen King. It's fantastic.
Heartstopper 4. Devoured them in one morning. It gets darker by the third and fourth book. One of the Good Guys. Holy hell, I'm going to have a long review on this. This was fantastic. And then Zombies Christmas Carol. Meh. All right, that's the end. Bye.
Boop.